Hey everyone, for today's Digital Friday, you're going to need a couple of things. You're going to need Illustrator on your computer. You're going to need a picture of your pattern excerpt. So this is an excerpt from your drawing that you drew on a 5x5 in a 5x5 square. And you're going to need this template file that's called Lantern Template Digital Friday. So you can go ahead and open up this file, and it should open up and look like this. This has the same thing you have been drawing or are about to draw if you haven't started yet, 2 times, and over here we have a 5x5 square. So what I'd like you to do first is make sure that your setup here looks similar to mine so that you can follow along. So if you go to Window, go to Workspace, and then you would hit Reset Essentials so that it looks kind of like this. In Illustrator, since we haven't looked at this before, I just want to go over where a couple of things are. Up here are your basic drawing tools, so your selection tool, your direct selection tool, magic wand tool, lasso tools. This is very similar to Photoshop in that way. Illustrator is especially good for vectors. So here you have your pen tool, your type tool, your arc tool. These are all vector-based tools. And we'll go over specific ones you need. Eyedropper tool lets you pick out certain colors that are already in your work. We'll use this a little bit. This has the fill color and the stroke color. And then on this side, you have some settings, including your swatches, which are right here. You have your brushes. This is your stroke. Anytime you have a menu that has 3 little lines here, you can click on it and hit show options so you have more options than that. And then your effects are down here. And finally, we're going to use your layers. So if you look at the layers right now, you can see that template is a layer here that has all these lines on it, and it's locked, so I can't move or change any of those. I'm keeping that locked on purpose. So now on layer 2, I want you to click on layer 2 and rename it. So if you double click on it, and it should come up with this window, and then you can type in here, and I want you to call this image and hit OK. And we're going to bring in our image now and scale it to fit in this box. So I'm going to go to File, Place, and then I'm going to find that image of my detail and hit Place. So it came in much bigger than it needed to be. I'm going to get the corner, hold Shift so that I'm not changing the aspect ratio, and I'm going to reduce the size of it until it looks just about like it would fit there. To zoom in and out, I hit Control plus to zoom in, Control minus on my keyboard to zoom out, Control plus on my keyboard to zoom in, Control minus to zoom out. Okay, so let's see, am I getting close here? I can see this is my artboard, and I want to match up the size of it to my guidelines as much as possible. So it looks like I need it to be a little bit bigger. And this is just a photograph, it's not a scan, so I might need to manipulate it a little bit or fudge it a little bit to get it to fit, because it isn't a scan, so there's no like true dimensions on it. Okay. So I'm going to say that is good enough. I'm going to rotate it a little bit to get it closer. Okay, I'm going to say that's good enough. So once I have this here at about the right size, I'm going to lock this layer. I'm going to create a new layer and call this one pattern. And this is the layer I'm now going to be drawing on. So now I can't select anything here. We're doing good. So for this pattern, I'm going to first put a box around the whole thing because I want that to be part of my pattern. So I'm going to come over here to my rectangle tool. Down here, I'm going to click on this box that has the X there with the none so that it has no fill. And then I'm going to go to the corner of my box and draw that in. So if I were to turn off my image now, you'd see that I have this line around the outside, this path around the outside. Okay, next I'm going to use my pen tool to approximate these curves as closely as I can. So the pen tool is right here. Where'd it go? Right here. I'm going to Control plus to zoom in so I get a really good look. I'm making sure that I touch this line when I come down. I then come to the next kind of dip in my curve where the curvature is changing. I click and drag in order to get that line that allows me to manipulate how the curve goes. Then I'm going to do that again here. I'm going to click and drag so I can kind of keep that curve just how I want it to be. I'm going to do this all the way across my curve. So I'm just tracing here, but I'm being really pretty careful to put a point anywhere that I can see that there's a curvature change so that I can really control that curve. So I'm taking my time to do this to make sure it comes out pretty close to my original curve. And I can always go back later and adjust it. Like there's mistakes, so I'm going to come back and adjust that in a second. But I want to finish my whole curve before I start trying to adjust it. So again, click and drag, click and drag, click and drag, click and drag, click and drag. Okay, so if I want to adjust it, I'm going to grab my direct selection tool here. That's the second arrow. And then I can click on any one of these points and I can manipulate the handle to get it looking a little bit closer to what I want. So over here, I'm going to bring this handle in a little bit, try to get that curve looking a little bit closer to my original curve. It doesn't need to be exactly the same, but I'm trying to get it pretty close. Okay, so that's all in. Next, I'm going to work on getting these two in. So again, I'm going to grab my pen tool. I'm going to click here. This time, instead of holding and dragging, I'm just going to click. So I'm going to keep that green line there so that I know that it's straight. Then come down here, get my green lines. Now I have a very straight thing there. Same thing here. I'm going to click, bring this straight up till I get to here. From here, I'm going to come here to there. Okay, so I put in that extra line. I actually want it to be open here, so I'm going to use my scissor tool. If you don't see it, it might be the eraser tool right now. So if you click and just hold on any one of these menu items, you can get other tools. So I'm going to grab my scissor tool. I'm going to click there. Then I can click my direct selection tool. Actually, I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to click right here, and then that makes that its own little piece, and I can hit the delete key on my keyboard to get rid of it. Okay, last thing are these two curves up here. I'm going to use my arc tool for them. So I'm going to click on this anchor point and then bring it back here, and I'm going to go way past here to try to get that arc looking pretty much like what's there. You could also just use the pen tool here if the arc's not working. So I think the arc's maybe not quite perfect for this, but I'm modifying mine a little bit using this arc. Okay, and then I'm going to use my scissor tool to cut off the ends here. So I'm going to go ahead back to my scissors, and I'm going to click here and click here. And use my direct selection tool to select the outer piece and delete it, the outer piece and delete it. Okay, so now I have created my pattern. I can turn off my image and you can see it's over here. I'm going to select all these things. I'm going to right click and hit group, and that's going to allow me to move this around without having any issues. So I'm going to create two different patterns. So I'm going to Control C, Control V, so copy paste. And I'm just going to drag this down to my first box here and put it in. So there's different ways that you can do this project. You could have the same pattern going all the way across. You could, so if I wanted to just do repetition, right? So if you hold down Shift and Alt, it makes a copy. That's my favorite way to make a copy. You can also do Control C, Control V, right? But this is an example of just repetition. So that would create one kind of pattern. So I could do just repetition. The next kind of transformation I can do is called rotation. So I could rotate this one 90 degrees. You can hold shift to get it to exactly 90. I could rotate this another 90, so make this 180. 270. And then maybe back to normal. And maybe I can start rotating around the other way. So there could be some kind of rotation, and you can see how that's starting to create some kind of flowery pattern here. And then the final way you can change things is through symmetry or mirroring. So I'm going to copy this one down to here. And maybe in this one I'm going to do more of a mirrored pattern. So I'm going to first create the copy, so hold down Shift and Alt. Okay, man. Is it Control and Shift? I think it's Shift Alt. Okay. So Shift and Alt. So getting this extra one, I'm going to right click on it and click on Transform, Reflect. And I can reflect it vertically and hit OK. And then I can put this right here. And then I could have these both reflect over the baseline. So if I select both of them by holding Shift and then hit right click, Transform, Reflect, I can reflect them horizontally, hit OK. Oops, I should make a copy first. So Shift, Alt, okay, now if I right click, Transform, Reflect, horizontal. Okay, and then I could maybe do one more mirror this way. So I could select these two. And then right click, transform, reflect, and we could do vertical here. So I could either have repetition, I could have rotation, or I could have reflection. Those are the three different things, and I'll write those out. So we have repetition, rotation, or reflection. Those are the three kinds of transformation you can use to create your pattern. The final thing I would like you to do on here, so first you're creating two different patterns. Second, I would like you to use live paint to start just exploring what wants to be cut out and what wants to be left as white paper. So to create a live paint out of this, I'm going to select all of this, come up here to Object, then go to Live Paint and click on Make. And that essentially turns this into a coloring book. My one warning for you is when you make something a live paint, it only will work, you can only color in if all of the shapes that you've made carefully are closed. Like for example, if these two did not touch each other, I wouldn't be able to live paint it. So to get my live paint bucket, I come down to about halfway down here, and there's the live paint bucket. It might be under the shape builder tool on yours. And then here, I want to flip these so that I have black for the fill, so that I can experiment with what wants to be cut out. So maybe I cut out all of these kind of window frame images on this one, and that starts to create my lantern. Maybe here though, I'd rather have this piece. So I'm also cutting out that piece, and I can start to see, like, is that enough lantern cut out? Is that too much lantern cut out? Will there be enough to kind of hold this thing together? I would really like there to be some expression of what's here that I'm not seeing right now. So I'm going to go ahead and shade that in as well. Even though at this point, this might be getting to be too cut out. So the good thing is I can always, unlike when you do it by hand, I can experiment with and say like, okay, no, that's way too much cut out. And then I could flip these again and go through and delete some of the things I've cut out. And just because it's a pattern doesn't necessarily mean you have to color in the same thing each time. If you want to vary a little bit, that is your choice as a designer. So maybe I'll stick with those and then just one. It's going to be just this one. Okay, and then in this version, same thing. So for this, I think I really want these colorful parts to all be shaded in. So again, I would click and drag to select all of those. Then I would go to Object, Live Paint, Make, and now I'm using my Live Paint bucket to shade in the parts that I'd like to cut out. The point of this is to give you an opportunity to test out the composition of your final lantern before you have to commit to it, because once you've actually drawn it out, drafted it in, and cut it, it's a big commitment to then make a different design. Whereas here, it's really not that hard to very quickly make different iterations. Okay, so once you have your two patterns, I want you to save it. And then I want you to upload that Illustrator file to Google Classroom. And please do me a favor, please also save it as a PDF. So if you go to save a copy and then save it as a PDF as well, and upload that PDF file so it's a little bit easier for me to see. Thank you so much.